A queen had entered the room, and Rome would never be the same. Alexandria burned. The city of knowledge of temples and scrolls became a war zone. Roman factions clashed. Egyptian nobles took sides. Ptolemy's armies laid siege to the palace, and in the center of the storm were two lovers. Welcome to Omar's Story Nook, where history gets spicy, legends get a remix, and imagination runs wild. Every tale you hear is a whisper of Omar, echoing across time, culture, and the soul. She was the queen of the Nile, brilliant, daring, divine. He was Rome's most powerful man, ambitious, relentless, feared. They should have been enemies, but something deeper drew them together. Not just passion, but purpose. This is the forbidden romance of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. A love affair that threatened empires, birthed the sun, and altered the fate of nations. It wasn't just scandalous. It was strategic. It wasn't just political. It was poetic. It was a flame that flickered between thrones, a bond that bent beneath the weight of history, but never fully broke. Let's unravel the story that lingered behind veils, that stirred the envy of the Senate and gave the world a glimpse of what might have been if love had ruled the world. 48 BCE, Alexandria, a city of beauty and unrest. The air smelled of salt and smoke. Tension curled like incense through the halls of the royal palace. The great library stood silent, watching history turn. Cleopatra the seventh, Philopator, daughter of the Nile, goddess in blood, queen in exile. Stripped of her throne by her younger brother Ptolemy the 13th and his advisors, she wandered the deserts with only a few loyal men, planning, waiting. Then came a whisper. Julius Caesar had arrived, not as a visitor, not as a friend, but as a Roman general sent to settle a sibling feud for the sake of empire. Caesar, conqueror of Gaul, feared, respected, ruthless. Cleopatra didn't hesitate. One moonless night under the cloak of darkness, she smuggled herself into the palace, not with soldiers but with silk, hidden in a rug, rolled like treasure, carried past torches and tension. When the rug unfolded before Caesar, she emerged not as a prisoner, but as a vision. Eyes like obsidian, voice like honeyed thunder, crowned only in confidence. She didn't beg. She offered alliance. She spoke of Nile floods and Roman trade, of loyalty and legacy. Caesar, amused, then captivated, listened, not because she flattered him, but because she challenged him. In that moment, amid the flicker of flames and shifting marble shadows, two histories collided, not with saw, but with a spark. A queen had entered the room, and Rome would never be the same. Alexandria burned. The city of knowledge of temples and scrolls became a war zone. Roman factions clashed. Egyptian nobles took sides. Ptolemy's armies laid siege to the palace, and in the center of the storm were two lovers, back to back, fighting not just for survival, but for the future they dared to dream. The palace gates groaned under pressure. Flames licked the library of Alexandria, its scrolls glowing like dying stars. And still, Cleopatra stood firm. With Caesar beside her, she wielded strategy like a blade. She knew the alleys of the city like her own veins. She moved troops through whispers and shadows. And when the Nile began to rise, she called it a sign. Caesar too was transformed. No longer the distant Roman general. Now, he was a man fighting for more than empire, fighting for the woman who matched his mind, who saw in him not just power but potential. They held the palace through fire, through betrayal, Through nights where the only sound was the crackle of torches and the breathing of soldiers waiting for dawn. When the siege broke, they emerged not as ruler and conqueror, but as something more dangerous. A union of heart and ambition, a story too big for either empire. Soon after, Caesar returned to Rome, but this time, Cleopatra did not stay behind. She followed, not in secret, not in shame, but in gold-threaded silks, with her son Caesarion as living proof of two worlds colliding. And behind them trailed the ash of Alexandria and the embers of something eternal. Rome did not welcome her. She arrived with incense and an air, golden sails and perfumed robes. A queen who refused to bow, but the Senate saw danger. A foreign sorceress, they whispered. A temptress from the east. A threat wrapped in silk and prophecy. They called Caesar mad for loving her, for honoring her son, for imagining a Rome that could stretch beyond tradition and open its gates to the Nile. Yet Caesar remained unmoved. He walked her through the forum, hand in hand. He built a villa for her across the Tiber. He carved out futures in stone, names chiseled beside his own. He gave her a seat. He gave her hope. But power does not share easily. In the shadows of the Curia, daggers were drawn, not just against Caesar, but against the dream he had dared to love. The Ides of March arrived, and with it, betrayal. Blades fell in silence. 23 wounds, none in the back. When word reached Cleopatra, she didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply held their son tight and whispered a lullaby in Egyptian, the same one she once sang to Caesar under Alexandria's stars. Rome erupted into chaos. Her villa was looted, her name erased from tablets and temples. And once again, Cleopatra became a queen without a throne and a woman without a heart. But this was not the end. Number only the beginning of what the world refused to understand, that love could be more dangerous than war. Cleopatra returned to Egypt not as a conqueror, but as a shadow draped in gold. The halls of the palace felt colder, her throne heavier. The marble floor still remembered Caesar's footsteps, the way he had laughed when a pet leopard stole his sandals, the way he traced stars on papyrus beside her. Now, there was only silence, but she was still queen. And queens do not crumble in public. She crowned Caesarion, the boy who bore two empires in his blood. She wrote letters in ink and fire, sending them to foreign courts, to allies, to ghosts. She ruled not with joy, but with memory. Each night she walked the gardens alone, past fountains he once admired, past fig trees they planted together. Sometimes she spoke aloud, pretending he was beside her still. Sometimes she said nothing, just listened to the wind and hoped he was somewhere in it. History tells us she died by asp, a bite, a legend, a curtain drawn. But perhaps it was heartbreak that took her. Or perhaps it was love choosing to follow where memory had already gone. In time, her name would be tarnished, her image twisted into myth. But somewhere, in whispered poems, in faded hieroglyphs, in the soft hush of the Nile at dusk, a different story remains. Not of seduction, not of scandal, but of two rulers who reached across time, across borders, and across fate itself to write a love that outlived them both. Every empire has its conquerors, but only a few have love stories that echo through eternity. Until the next whispers of Omar, stay listening.